for joining me today on my channel at stampingelegance.com. My name's Jan Radu and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. I live in the Vines in Western Australia. I'm bringing a project to you today that features a couple of the Saleabration products that are actually on the While Stocks Last list. So if you don't know what Saleabration is, that's our twice yearly promotion. This is the catalogue that goes with it, and you can choose a free product from this brochure with every $90 spend that you make, and you can purchase from either the current mini catalogue or our annual catalogue. That's the mini catalogue there, full of lots of seasonal goodies if you're getting a head start on your Christmas cards. The Saleabration brochure contains a couple of products that are on the While Stocks Last list. So a couple of those that I'll be using today are, first of all, we're going to be using the Counting Sheep stamp set, and it's the matching dies that are actually on the While Stocks Last list. So these may not last in stock until the end of the promotion. So if you've got a bit of a list, don't hesitate on placing that order. And the other one that we're using today that may run out is the Bedazzling 6x6 specialty paper. And this is really fun, gorgeous, it's pretty dazzling. And this one is not a glitter paper. It looks a bit more like a disco ball. Sorry if I'm shining that in your eyes. It is really easy to cut through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. I use a Big Shot. It's beautiful through the Big Shot. And there's no mess involved. So it's a really cute way to sparkle up your projects. Beautiful for Christmas, but as you'll see today, I'm using it for a birthday card. So that one also is While Stocks Last. So if that's on your list, get started with that one. And if you need any help placing any orders and you don't have a demonstrator in Australia, I'd love to be your demonstrator. You can contact me with any questions that you have, any crafty questions, any ordering questions. You can leave me a comment or you can send me an email at stampingelegance@live.com, and I'd love to help you out. So the project that we're making today is this really cute interactive card. This uses our Give It A Whirl dies from our annual catalogue. When I first saw them, I was intrigued but a little bit intimidated. But when you use it, they're actually really straightforward to use. And once you've made one, you could make, 1,000 different versions of that same kind of card. So it comes with a set of dies, which actually I've been using for a couple of months, using all bits and pieces that come with the dies. I'll show you those up close in a little bit. But the main die is this card front and a cutout that allows you to pop a wheel in there. Now, absolutely love the little arrow, the directional arrow that you can put on your card to help your recipients so they know what they're doing with the card. So as you can see, I've got some party sheep and just a bunch of party hats at the moment. But if I turn my wheel, I can turn that through to say, "So glad it's your birthday," which is really cute. And then I can keep going and I can say an alternate sentiment here, which is "You're amazing." So it's just a little bit of fun and loving the tone on tone look of this card as well. I don't think it's quite really where I was going with it, but once it started coming together and then I added the amazing paper, the tonal look, I'm absolutely loving it. So that's the front of the card, and then inside we've just got a little bit of detail there too. So let me show you how I put this one together. So these are the interactive dies that we're going to be using for our card today. This is the Give It A Whirl dies, and they come in 2 sheets. As you can see on the first sheet, this is the card front that we'll be using. Here are some alternate windows that you can use to cut different shapes out of your card, and we'll be using this window here. This is the main wheel die that creates this white wheel piece. Now, I will apologise for Texas's claws on the floor of my craft room. I cannot keep him out of here. I've given up trying. I'm quite happy to have him laying under my desk while I'm crafting, in all honesty. So that is the wheel die. The other die that we're going to be using, I've already popped it on this piece of paper here so that you can see. This is a piece of basic white cardstock, and I've actually lined it with the self-adhesive sheets. And I've run it through my cutting machine, and as you can see, that's the little die that's going to create the arrows. So you can see it's actually picked up the self-adhesive arrows inside the die there. I'm just going to pop them back until I'm ready to use them. That's the best way to adhere that little arrow onto your card. So that's another really useful die that obviously comes in the set. These ones here, I'm assuming imprint directional arrows onto your card, but I haven't actually had a play with those yet. So that is the die set that really is the star of the interactive side of the card. So I have gone ahead and pre-cut most of the pieces that we need just to speed things up a little bit. I'm also going to need a brad. Now, the brads that we have available in the annual catalogue are actually white and black. So you can see here, there's this little set of brads. So these are the round and square brads, and you get 200 pieces, which I haven't actually ordered those yet. So I am using just a square brad from my stash, which is very similar to what the Stampin' Up one is, except for it's silver. And as you can see, it's going to be hidden by my sheep anyway. So I'm starting with a card base of Early Espresso, and I have the measurements here. So for a card base, we're cutting at 20 centimeters by 13.5, which for American viewers, I'm sure that is nice and standard. But for us Australian card makers, this is not a normal sized card. Just to give you an idea of what a normal sized card would be in comparison. So that is a normal sized card compared to what this one comes out as. So that's just something to keep in mind. So I've cut, my card base is 20 centimeters by 13.5, and I have scored at 10 centimeters. So I'm just prepare my card base there. I'm going to need a piece of basic white for the inside of my card, and that one is 13 centimeters by 9.5. Now I have pre-cut my wheel with basic white, and as you can see, this die actually cuts with a hole in the middle for your brad to help you with the assembly of your card. Now I haven't pre-cut the card front yet, so I'll go ahead and do that. I just wanted to show you how that one comes together. So first of all, I'm just going to run that through. Now my designer series paper has a vertical pattern. This is from the In Good Taste DSP pack, which is full of really great neutral backgrounds, this wood one being one of them. So I'm just going to quickly run that one through the cutting machine. Now hopefully you can still hear me. Ignore the cranking and cracking, that's all normal sounds. I'm still using the old Big Shot. I haven't been lucky enough to come through to the ways of the new machine yet. I have the mini, I just haven't managed to grab myself the large one yet. Now, because my plates are a bit warped, they tend to not cut the end of a rectangle, so I'm just using a pair of scissors to snip that one off. So that's the card front made. So as you can see, that's just going to fit beautifully onto the card base with the notch there to allow us to spin the wheel. So the next thing we're going to do is line up our window. So as you can see here, I'll just leave the measurements there so that you can refer to them if you're crafting along. So mine is around about here. This doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but I'm just going to place that, matching up the hole to the hole that's already cut through, from that die. So you can see that die has the hole there as well. So I'm going to place this one by matching the hole up, and then I'm just going to run that through my cutting machine also. So if you're worried about that moving around, you can secure it with a little bit of tape. I've still got a magnetic platform, so that does hold it in place. So now you can see that's cut out the window there, and I am ready to go ahead and put together the interactive side of the card. That's how simple it is. So for the stamping, there's been a lot of discussion about what the best way to make sure that you get your stamping in the correct spot. I think maybe some of us are trying to overthink it a little bit too much. I'm not sure if you're going to pick up, but you can actually see, because of the way the die is sectioned off here for strength, and to allow us to have that hole in the middle, this actually leaves some very pale imprints in our cardstock, which can be quite helpful to line up for the lining up and the stamping. Now, what I found was the easiest way is by looking at those indents. I'm just going to line that up with my card front, and I'm going to assemble it. So I'm going to pop the die through nice and tight. Did I call it a die? It's a brad. And then I'm going to flatten the brad through, and I'm actually going to stamp in there. Depending on what you're stamping, this method isn't always going to work, but because of what I'm doing, simple sentiments and then just a collection of little party hats, this is just a really nice and straightforward way to do that. So if I bring in the Counting Sheep stamp set, so I've got the stamp set here, and then I've also preloaded my sheep dies on like an adhesive magnetic sheet, so that just keeps it all nice and tidy together. So I'm just going to pull out the sentiments that I need, and also my little party hat. Got a little stack of blocks. Does anyone else let their blocks get this grubby? I keep thinking I should clean them, but then I think, well, it's kind of a sign of them being nice and used, and then that makes me happy too. So I'm not quite sure which way to go with that. Now I am going to stamp, I actually stamped with Early Espresso when I made my card for these little sections in here, but it's a really dry ink pad, so I'm going to go with Memento this time. Now remember, if something happened and you didn't quite get this stamped nicely, you can always just cut out another wheel and replace it and have another go again. It's not a be-all and end-all, I don't think, if you need to redo this, if for some reason the stamping didn't work. So I'm just going to load up my ink onto my stamp, and I'm going to use the window just to position where I want my sentiment to go. Now I think the key here is just to let that dry before you spin it. So I'm just going to close up my stamp pad, and let's just give that a couple of minutes, and we'll go on to some other part of the card, and then we can come back. So the other pieces that I've got cut, I have used the fence die, and I've cut out one of the Bedazzlings. I've also cut out another wood grain, and I've made sure that I actually cut along the grain when I lined my fence up, so that it looks a bit more realistic. I've got a really cute little bedazzled balloon and a little bedazzled cloud as well. So I'll pop that one aside. Now I've pre-stamped my sheep, so while that one's drying, let's go ahead and just do a quick little bit of colouring with the sheep. Now I'm going to do exactly the same colouring as I did in my previous video. I'll just link up here to that video if you are interested in having a look at that. It's just a bit of a different style, but using similar sheep. And I loved the colouring so much that I'm not going to stress too much about changing it up. So I am using the dark smoky slate for his hooves, the ivory, which is part of the bronze ivory skin tone set for his sweet little face. And I have on order a petal pink set of blends because I realized how I was lacking a pink in my stash. So I'm just using another marker that I have from my stash just to give the sheep a little bit of a rosy cheek. So I'm going to go ahead and do some colouring, and then we'll come back and spin that and stamp our next sentiment. So that's my colouring finished there. As I said, it's nice and simple colouring, and I'm going to spin my wheel around, and I can see the next border line of the window is about there. So I'm just going to stop when I've spun that one full circle, and I will stamp my You're Amazing on there. getting a beautiful stamp with these red rubber. Really happy with that impression. So that's the 2 sentiments, and again we will just pop that aside. We can go ahead and assemble the inside of our card. We will just pop this one down with some Stampin' Seal. We can pop the fence down with, let's just remind ourselves what we did in there. Pop the fence down with some Tombow. So just a little bit, not too much Tombow. You don't want it squishing out of the sides of your fence railings. This is really strong stuff, so you really don't need an awful lot there. And I lined that one up with the side of the border. And I usually let a block do the work for me to push these things down, so we'll just give that a nice push down. I'm going to go ahead and die cut my sheep. Okay, so I've die cut my sheep. I've got 1, 2, 3 of those. I can pop my inside one on dimensionals. I love his little face, isn't that sweet? So I'm just going to pop 2 dimensionals on him. And he's just going to be placed like he's standing on the bottom of my card in front of his gate. So that's the inside. I think it's probably the first time I've ever finished the inside of a card before I've done the outside. So next we can spin around. So we're going to spin one more time until I've got that same nice border happening there. And we're going to stamp our party hat. Now I do remember when I was making the sample card that I really did have a lot of ink on my party hat, so I'm just going to do a couple of tests, and I do need one of them for the party sheep up here as well, so that seems to be stamping nicely. So I'm just going to spin my card so that I can copy the kind of pattern that I did with the last party. My arrow's not quite stuck down properly there. So let's just have a look at the placing of the party hats. So we've got one going this way, one going this way, one going back that way, and another one upside down. Okay, so this little one here I'm going to just colour with the ivory and the smoky slate blend. So the smoky slate is filling in the polka dots. I'll do another one just in case, because why not? And then the ivory, I'm just going to go around, just being a bit mindful that that ink might still be wet. So that's those two. I'm going to give those another second to dry, and I'll just cut that one out with the coordinating party hat die that comes in that sheep die set. So I can add my party hat onto this little sheep here. I'm actually just going to do that by popping a couple of spots of Tombow. Like I said, it's a really strong glue, so we really don't want too much on there. And if you've watched my videos before, you know I like jaunty angles, so we just need to make sure that that little hat is on a very cute, happy, jaunty angle. So that's that one done. Let's colour in these ones here as well while we're here. Now to put our card together, I'm going to pull out my Stampin' Dimensionals, and I've got an old pair of scissors that I keep for lots of gucky times like this. I don't really want, see it's even got sticky tape stuck to it. I don't want adhesive sticking up my good paper snips, so I just use an old pair. And I'm just going to use the corner of my dimensionals and chop off each corner section like that, and just use that on my card front. And the bonus to doing this is that you've got your corner pre-designed already, and you're lifting your card front up off your card base just to allow that wheel to spin a little more freely. So it definitely does need dimension, and I think these corners are just the perfect way to do that. And you can make them so when you're coming down to these ones, you can make them as long or as big corners as you need to. Of course, if you wanted to just whack a whole bunch of dimensionals on there, you could do that as well. But I just find this uses up the excess dimensional foam, and it's all pre-organized for me. So you're probably going through thinking of all the different designs that you could do and all the cute little things that you could have peeking out of your wheel. This is just a really simple way to show you how the machinations of the card go together, and then the sky's the limit really. So if we bring this one in, and I'll just use my bone folder to get a nice good crease down there. I can pull my dimensional backings off. Does anyone else who makes videos just throw the dimensional stuff on the floor and then deal with it later? And now what we're just going to do is line that up so that it's in the center of our card, and there's a nice even border around your card front, and then we can press that down. So now we've got our card front down and our wheel spinning beautifully. Something on there. Thought that was ink, but it wasn't. So, whew. Okay, so you're amazing. Now all we need to do is assemble the rest of our card. Firstly, I'll just show you the arrows. So like I showed you before, the die is already run through on basic white with our adhesive sheets on the back. And then when you peel those off, if they get stuck in there like mine have, you can just use your take a pick tool and use your pokey end there to push your arrow out. So that's adhesive on one side, and all you need to do is pop it in the right direction, I should say, to help your recipient with what they need to do with the interaction. And you can use your bone folder just to press that arrow down to make sure you've got a really nice stick on there, and then it becomes more obvious for them to know exactly what they need to do. So we'll go ahead and pop this one down with a little bit of Tombow. You could actually have run these through on an adhesive sheet first. If everything you're doing is going down flat, you could definitely do that. My balloon and my cloud are not going down flat, so they need to be up on dimensionals anyway. Okay, so what have we done here? Okay, so I'm putting my fence with the railings on there, and let's just pop that down. I'll just use my grid paper to try and make sure I've got a nice even amount underneath. And I'll grab my block again, pop that down on there. I can pop the cloud into place. I think I just used 1 dimensional for that one. And he's kind of hanging over the top of the window, which I liked. We can put our party hat sheep into place. 2 dimensionals on him should be sufficient. And I just want to position him so that he is jumping over the fence and also obscuring the brad for me. So there's him. And then this little fellow, we will pop him down as if he is standing in front of the fence, and I've just got a little bit of overhang there, so we'll just pop him. The reason I did the overhang is I was just trying to have enough space for him to have the balloon and not be sort of directly next to that other one. You'll see what I mean when I put this balloon down. So I just want the balloon in his hand, but enough space that the balloon can go off to the side there. And that's the finished card. So it's really quite simple to put together. Interactively, it's straightforward when you've got a bit of a directional arrow to help the recipient of your amazing card out. And then inside we've just got the sweet little face of this little lamb. And I really hope that you liked that project. I hope that it encourages you to have a go at the Give It A Whirl Dies. And again, with the Saleabration, if you really wanted these sheep dies, please don't delay. If I can help you with an order, let me know. Otherwise, hit that subscribe button. The notification bell will let you know when I post another video. And thank you so much for your time today.